Good Tuesday afternoon to you. Welcome to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk KOH. It's a pleasure to be with you and a pleasure to be with one of my two co-hosts. Not saying he's not number one. Aaron Clark of Idreality. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Good, buddy. Good.
Your
Do I
world's doing crazy.
beyond crazy? It is, you think when you do this as long as I've done it, Aaron, you think you've seen everything. And I tell you,
No one's
every
seen
day,
this.
every day, it's like things just, I think my biggest frustration is like common sense does not prevail anymore. And it's because of the technology that we're dealing with, the algorithms, the quant trading, all these
hmm
things that have no rationale to them. I'm going to give you a prime example now that you've got me on my soapbox.
Yeah,
I'm going
give
to
one.
give you a prime example. All right. So we go today, right? We start things off. Go back to my notes. We were down, when I did my first update at 523, we were down 108 points. Right before the market opened, we were down 365 points. So I'm talking about the Dow futures, right? Ugly open. Pretty simple. Oil prices were through the roof. Oil was up over $3 a barrel. Gold was up just a little bit. Bond yields were skyrocketing. Everything was going on, right? That was negative for the market. Market opens up, it dips a little bit, and then all of a sudden it reverses. And I'm scrambling. I'm looking at every news source that I have, making phone calls, trying to figure out everything as to why. Nobody knew anything. The algorithms, there was something that happened and the algorithms took off. I'm like, this is making absolutely no sense. Aaron, we closed with oil at $4.10. 92.29 a barrel. We hit very briefly overnight $100 oil. Now remember, we lost almost $10 yesterday, right? And on Trump's
hmm
comments. And then it rebounds today. And my first update this morning, I said, I got to be real honest with you, Ross. I said, I'm skeptical of what the president said yesterday. Not that I'm saying he's lying or anything like that. I'm just skeptical. And I said this on the show yesterday. I just don't see, I think we are in, meaning this war is too deep for all of a sudden just to say, yeah, we're having a few phone calls and everything's hunky dory. And boy, the world's just going to be, kumbaya again. It's not going to happen. There's too much damage. There's too many lives, unfortunately, of course, that have been lost. Too much money has been spent. You got $200 billion trying to get approved by Congress to spend more on that. So you have all of these negatives, and you have to sit back and you go, well, wait a minute. The only thing really positive yesterday that happened was you had the president come out and say, yeah, we've had conversations with Iran over the weekend. Looks like a deal is imminent. We should know something. And by the way, I'm going to bump up, till the end of the week, this massive bombing that the world has said, if you bomb their infrastructure, their utilities and power plants and desalination and all the infrastructure of the company, it's a war crime. And so many are saying that's why he backed down, that he needed some way to kind of get out of this mess a little bit, and that he fabricated the story that, yeah, we're having all kinds of great discussions. Twice yesterday, and even this morning, Iran came out, and again, take it for what it's worth. You don't know who to believe anymore. Iran said, no, we've had no discussions. You've got a few countries like Turkey and a few others that are kind of playing middleman. But you got Jared Kushner trying to, I guess he's the new, world broker dealer, his son-in-law, trying to broker this deal with Iran. And you're just going, it doesn't make any sense, and so we continue to watch that. And then again, this morning, overnight, wake up at 3:00, I'm checking the futures, checking oil prices, and they're through the roof. The futures are down and oil prices are through the roof. And this is what I said on the show yesterday. I'm skeptical. Be very careful. Don't judge that this thing is all behind us just on one day's trading action, because yesterday was the algorithms again, right? As you know what, Aaron, I'm going to let you explain how algorithms work, because the audience is probably sick and tired of me telling them, you're a tech guru. You explain it. Let's hear your explanation of how, computer trading algorithms work.
Well, I mean, the simplistic example or explanation with algorithms is the computer basically, it's kind of like stop losses, right? The computer does that, but it
Great
creates it
analogy.
on a five-dimensional format. So where we would look at, let's say, a stock and say, when it reaches a certain price, we want to sell or we want to buy. And so it's one dimensional. On an algorithm, it's five dimensions. So it might be price, but it also might be futures. It might be based, let's say for AI, for example, if you were looking at an algorithm on AI, it's going to base it upon multiple aspects: cost of oil, chips out of Taiwan. So you're going to take
Inflation
all these
levels,
other, yeah,
bond yields.
inflation, future tech companies, evolutionary discoveries in technology. Like I think NVIDIA came out today and said that they officially have figured out AGI, which is artificial
Mhm.
general intelligence, where now artificial intelligence has the ability to act and think just like a human. So
Human.
that algorithm right there is going to take that information and then speculate therefore and decide what it wants to do based upon whatever
Yep.
inputs it has.
Yep. Yep. Excellent explanation. Better than I've explained it. I've never thrown in that word five dimensional, but I'm gonna say five dimensional, times a million, because that's
Yeah.
what an algorithm can do, right?
Yeah.
And as I've always emphasized, Aaron, every trading firm out there, whether it's an individual or a multi-trillion dollar Wall Street firm, they all have their own algorithms, right? They're not doing the same thing, because they get their analysts and go, okay, Mr. Analyst, the program says, okay, Mr. Analyst, tell me what would make oil prices go up, right? And the analyst goes, well, let's see if there's no flow through the Strait of Hormuz, if this is going on. So he gives the programmer a list. And then he goes to the next trader and says, hey, what would make the Dow Jones Industrial Average break the 200-day moving average? The analyst goes, and those are the programs in there. And so here's the thing that's exciting, folks, and can be frustrating. It's not static, right? It's dynamic, right? Because the markets change, the economy changes, the world changes day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. So these algorithms have to adjust. As we said coming into this year, we said, actually, let me back up. January of 2025, we said, look at with President Trump coming in, that was after, of course, we knew that he won. With him coming in, be ready for volatility, because
Yeah.
you don't know what he's going to say. We got a taste of that in his first term. That's when, of course, you had Twitter, right? And so he would make just one comment on Twitter. Now it's True Social, and the algorithms will go nuts. Their program, if he says this, this, and this, then the market does this, or a certain stock does this. So now you've got him, of course, all day long, every single day, saying this or that, or someone in the cabinet saying this. And these algorithms just go nuts. And so human logic, the point I think Aaron and I are trying to get to with everybody is human logic no longer makes sense, right? Human logic says, well, like today, this market should have tanked. We lost 84 points on the Dow. Big deal. I mean, that was nothing,
The last
0.18%.
2 weeks, the market should have tanked.
You got it. You got it. But yet the algorithms are programmed for this or that. I mean, we finished up, like as I said, $4 a barrel. If you look back on some of the other days as this conflict has evolved into almost a month now, we're in the fourth week. There's days where oil is budged a lot less than that, and the
Hmm.
market tanked, right? So realistically, Aaron, a $4 gain in oil prices probably should have equated to well over 1,000 point loss on the Dow. Now, here comes human logic. You go, okay, but we lost $9 a barrel yesterday. So now we're still roughly, $6 and some, or $5 and some change ahead of where we were yesterday. But we're still historically high, right? $92.27
Yeah.
a barrel. That is a historically high number when we're, everything is programmed for oil around the mid 70, low 70 to mid $70 range. So here we are, $20 plus above that. Now, the other thing that's going on, Aaron, and I know you're aware of this, is you're now getting a lot of, I mean, they're of all positions, whether they're a global economist, a global Wall Street strategist, whatever you want to call it, men and women that have done this for a long time going, we've got about, well, I'm hearing any projection from 2 weeks to 2 months that if this thing doesn't get handled, we will be in a global crisis, not a global recession, but a global crisis because of higher oil prices. So, that weighs on the president and his strategies and what he says and does and so on and so forth. So again, it was just again, another, I know I've said this a million times this year, another bizarre trading day today that thank goodness, again, we only lost 84 points on the Dow. Like I said, I'm brushing my forehead right now.
Yeah.
If you can't see me, it's like we made it out of this one. Okay. Right. So yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But then, you go to the bond market side, Aaron, 6 basis point increase on the 10-year treasury, 439. Now, here was what was interesting yesterday. I wish Dwight could have been on the show and you yesterday because bond yields plummeted, right? Which is what they should do in a day where the market rallied, again, Dow up over 600 points. But today, they're selling the bonds, right? Here's come irrational. Markets in turbulence, oil prices up $4. What should they be doing? They should be buying the bonds as a safe haven. Instead,
Yeah.
what were they doing? Selling the
Selling.
bonds, drove that yield up to a yield of 439. So I'm fearful that we're starting to get back into this trend where we were a couple of days ago where nothing made sense, right? It's almost like you would do opposite. You get bad news, market goes up, you get good news, market goes down. The market is, and let me tell you folks, if you as an individual retail investor are confused, you're not alone. The brightest minds in the world, and again, because this is a global issue, the brightest minds in the world world, Aaron Clark, are confused, as confused as anybody else. Everybody is just absolutely speculating right now what's gonna happen next, right? From the war standpoint, which then transpires into obviously oil prices, which then transpires into the stock market, transpires into your world, the world of rates, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of moving parts. Now, let me tell you real quickly what Aaron and I are going to cover. Who knows? We may just keep rapping like this. I enjoy this conversation with you. I really do. We're going to get into cash flow for rentals, but we're not. We're going to take this one approach. We're going to make it really simple. We're talking one property. We're talking your personal residence. Yes, you can make cash flow on your personal residence. We're not talking about going out and buying 5 or 10 rentals or a couple duplexes, fourplexes, whatever the case is. We're going to focus on your home. Aaron's got some great strategies that I'm really excited for all of you to hear about. So we'll cover that. But first, Aaron, when we come back, I do want to cover a Bloomberg story that came out just a little while ago. Very fascinating about, unfortunately, some more U.S. troops that are on their way to Iran. So
Yeah,
again, you kind of sit here and go, yeah, if this thing is going to be ending in the next few days, as the president said yesterday, and he did say, I don't make any promises, you wouldn't be sending 5,000 airborne, 82nd Airborne to the Middle East. So that's what happened also today. So we'll cover that. Let's turn it over to Kristen Snow. She's in the wonderful, she's wonderful. She's in the Right Now Traffic Center. How are you, Kristen? Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH with Aaron Clark of Edge Realty. Mr. Millard has the afternoon off. Once again, here's how we finished. Again, bizarre. Wipe the sweat off my forehead. Shocked that we only closed down 84 points on the Dow. Closing level is 46,124. NASDAQ, a little bit worse, down 185.84%. And the S&P giving up 25 points, closing at 6,556. Actually did pretty good on the Russell 2000, up almost 0.5%, 0.45 to be exact. Once again, oil prices skyrocketing, $4.10 gain, $92.29 a barrel. Gold down $6.20, 4,401, and a 6 basis point increase on the 10-year Treasury at a yield of 4.39. According to Mortgage News Daily, boy, I'm sure Dwight's not smiling today, Aaron. 6 basis point increase on that 30-year mortgage at 6.55%. 6.55%. A couple more weeks of this, we could hit that 7 mark.
Yeah.
It's right there. But, before I get to this Bloomberg story, Aaron, you were mentioning something very interesting to me off the air. And he said, it's kind of business as usual. You're not hearing any concerns from buyers and things that they're worried about this or worried about that. And, you and I were joking and I said, yeah. And no one, that's human nature, right? No one worries about anybody else, or especially somewhere as far away as Iran, until it affects them. Right. And whether there's, God forbid, something happens to us in our country, or cyber attack or something, or the markets tank and their 401k goes down, then they're going to feel it. But that's kind of what you're seeing at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No concern.
I mean, what you're saying as far as attacking people directly in their pocketbook is totally true. But also, things are moving at such an incredible rate that I'm not even sure the news sort of has trickled to the water cooler yet, as far as how it'll impact people that are currently shopping, currently getting their house ready to put on the market. I mean, we might not actually be seeing the result of that until a couple more weeks from now. But just like,
You're right.
With groceries and things like that, we're probably not seeing the impact of the increase in price
Sure.
quite
Oh, yeah.
yet.
No,
It's going to hit soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. Okay, let me share with you the story. Aaron actually saw this earlier today also. So it came out, this is from Bloomberg. It came out at 1:39 our time, so not too long ago. All right, buckle your seatbelts. This is not a good story. It says the U.S. is preparing to deploy more troops to the Middle East as the war with Iran drags on. The Pentagon plans to send around 3,000 soldiers from the Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division to support operations against Iran, according to the Wall Street Journal today. The decision to put boots on the ground in Iran hasn't been made final yet, the officials said. Either way, the move would be a significant shift in the conflict, which has largely been an air campaign. As more U.S. troops head to the Middle East, President Trump has increasingly looked for an off-ramp of the war. Trump signaled that Iran had offered a, quote, present as a show of good faith in negotiations, and while he wouldn't detail the gift, he confirmed it was related to energy flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Overall, there remained broad uncertainty about who the U.S. is negotiating with, the structures of the talk, and the outlines of any potential agreement. And Iran and Israel have showed no signs of letting up on the conflict. I'll pause right there. Aaron, I'm sure you saw this. Many missiles were fired, both in Iran and, against Iran and against Israel overnight. That's the thing that's got me concerned also, is if we're in bed with Israel on this thing, right? We're supposed to be working side by side, hand by hand, or hand in hand. Then why would Israel still be firing aggressively the missiles,
Yes, I've had that
right?
thought many
If
times. Yeah.
did you, yeah. If Aaron and I are negotiating a house, the last thing I'm going to do is go egg his house, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to be
exactly.
really, I'm going to bring you some
Please
cookies. I'm going to
don't.
be a really nice guy to you. Yeah. And so that part's got me really, really confused. Okay. So let me go back to this Bloomberg story. This is where it also gets very interesting. Despite overtures for negotiations, there are some warning signs the conflict could explode into a much larger regional war. The New York Times reported that Saudi Arabia's crown prince is pushing Trump to stay in the war. Sources told Bloomberg the region's most powerful states, Iran rival Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates in particular, are losing patience with Iranian strikes that have been hitting ports, energy facilities, and airports. But those states would only join the war if Tehran makes good on the threats to attack vital power and water infrastructure, a high threshold. So let me stop there. So this is again the other issue is you take Saudi Arabia, you take the UAE, and they're like a punching bag right now, Aaron. They're
Yeah.
sitting back every day. There's barrages of drones and missiles that are hitting them, and again starting to hit. You go to Qatar again. The big story last week where it hit one of the largest. Well, it is the largest natural gas production facilities in the world. Hit one portion of that plant. So you're not seeing any retaliation, at least that we know of. Maybe on guerrilla warfare side, but you're not seeing any retaliation by UAE, by Saudi Arabia, etc. I've wondered about this. That's why I wanted to bring this story up because it's like, okay, so this is the case. They're tired of being the punching bag. They're telling Trump stay in the war. Meanwhile, this is interesting. If there's one clear winner from the war, it is Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin is earning the most from its oil exports since just after its troops marched into Ukraine in 2022, in crude flows amid soaring prices and eased sanctions. Russia's oil has been heading down, and while Putin has warned that the windfall will be temporary for now, Moscow's own war chest is getting a big boost. Take a guess, Aaron, how much money Russia is making at these oil levels. Take a guess how much they're making a day.
I'm sure it's billions.
I would thought so. $270 million a day Russia's making,
Okay.
up from 135 when oil was down in the $70 range.
That's crazy.
So think about this. Let's apply very quickly some logic. All right, so you're Putin. You're going, okay, my economy's kind of been decimated with this Ukrainian war. I was making 135 million a day in my oil exports. Now I'm making 270 million dollars a day.
Yeah. Over
Am I going to
double.
supply? Am I going to supply Iran with some
Some
missiles,
more ability
some
to
more ability
create
to keep these
chaos.
oil
Yeah,
prices? Well,
exactly.
bottom line, to keep the oil prices up, right? And again, we want to know: could this be a situation where China may be doing the same thing? Mention the comments you were talking about over the break with me off air, real quick, about China.
Yeah, I was talking about how a lot of the reports that are coming out of China is that they're kind of, buttoning down the hatches because they are in a complete state of running out of oil and self-budgeting oil over time periods because they get most of their oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. So,
90%.
yep. So they're not
90% of their
their
oil.
inflow is pretty much zero at this point.
You got it. You
So I
got it.
think it could be something that affects them far deeper than anybody realizes, and time will
Yes.
tell.
It's not getting you're absolutely spot on. It's definitely not getting enough press coverage of what's going on in China. I said this a couple of weeks ago. They're, mile long gas lines, right? They're rationing that side of it. So once again, every day, this is, if you notice on the show, it takes me the first half hour of the show just to bring everybody up to
Just to
date
talk
on
about oil.
just talk about oil and what happened today, or in the last 24 hours since we were on the show. So very, very interesting, fold of events that are undertaking at this particular time. All right, when we come back, let's try to make some money with Aaron Clark. Let's talk about how we can make some money, believe it or not, on our primary home from a rental aspect. All right, let's turn it over to Mr. Jim Poston. He's got news, traffic, and weather. Hi, Jimmy. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH with Aaron Clark of Edge Realty. Dwight has the afternoon off. All right, once again, we finished with a loss of 84 on the Dow. NASDAQ finished down 185, and the S&P lower by 25. Oil surging $4.10 to $92.29 a barrel. All right, we're going to get to our real estate topic now. Looking forward to this. Aaron, when we talk about making income off of real estate, the first thing that comes to mind is I need a bunch of rentals, right? If I want to do it right, or if I want a lot of money coming in, I need, 2, 3, 5, whatever number of rentals, depending upon your income goal. Very few times have I ever come across someone that says, oh, I'm making X amount of dollars on my personal residence. It's like, wait a minute, how you doing that?
I have a
And so
few of
that's
those
the
people.
topic. Yep, yep, exactly. So that's the topic that you and I are going to get into. So let's kind of start off with, I'm going to just share these, the myths, as Aaron puts them. You don't need multiple properties to create income. Most people are sitting on opportunities and they don't even realize it. Real estate income has evolved into not just buy and rent. So, Mr. Clark, let's start with your first strategy, house hacking. I like this one.
Yeah. So with house hacking, I mean, it reminds me of when I was in college, I had a rental property that I didn't own it. I rented it and I rented
Okay.
all the rooms out to my buddies
Did you
and
really?
charged them enough money that I paid zero. Like, I mean,
Love it.
that was, and
Started
they
your
thought it was
real
a great
estate
deal.
career. Yeah, right. And they thought it was a great deal. Yeah.
It was a great
Aaron, can we
deal.
pay you more?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of similar. You have your house and might have an area that you're not using, or let's say a lot of homes now you have daylight basement or something like that. You rent rooms out. So you can rent rooms out, garages, things like that. I have clients that it's not quite the same thing as far as like renting it out for somebody to live in, but they will rent their RV parking space online to people that have RVs because they don't have
Mm,
an RV or they have room for a couple RVs,
yes.
especially those of you that might have some land available to you, Golden Valley, Lemon Valley, places like that, where you might have some unused side yard area where you could park two, three, four of those things. You can
So always
rent that
check your
space out.
zoning rules with everything we're going to
Of
talk
course,
about.
of
Yeah.
course. Everything's going to be subject to laws and regulations. But yeah, so that's basically that. Um, Go ahead.
What's the biggest challenge you see with your clients that rent out rooms? I mean, when you said that, I've had a few clients over the years. I don't think I
Mhm.
have anybody right now that have done that. It's usually what I have found, at least in my situation, they're usually widowers, right? Widows or widowers.
Yes.
They're lonely, number one. And number two, they're like, I had one guy tell me a couple of years ago, he's like, he had lost his wife a while back. He said, this was the best thing I ever did. And I said, why? He goes, number one, and most importantly, I'm not lonely anymore because I've got someone there all the time. And number two, I'm bringing in good income off of it.
Yeah.
What's the downside of it?
I
Lack of
mean, the downside of it
privacy
is
and
is you might get somebody who ends up not being a great roommate, if you know what I
right,
mean.
right. And he focused on higher, older people, by the way. I should mention that. Like, I think you said, I won't rent anybody that's, I think, under 65 or something. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Or they're
people in the
single at the
same
time
situation.
and then they
Yeah.
meet somebody. I
Yep.
mean, the
Yep.
dynamic will change. And that's really
Absolutely.
it's not age restricted. It's like, I tell a lot of young people that are buying a house and it's their first purchase and they're going to be really stretched. And we talk about this whole process, like buy a house, rent out a couple rooms, you're single, until you find the right one to settle down with type thing. And it's a great way to do it and not feel the pressure of being so stretched. But
Great
as
point.
soon as you get to that place where you don't want to do it anymore and you
Yeah.
kick someone out or they
Yeah.
start bringing people in you don't
Yeah.
like or they start
Yeah.
making a
Got to have
mess.
rules.
Yeah, you got to have rules. I mean, remember, I was just going to say, remember, we're talking about hacking. So when you're hacking, you're just trying to pull out the best possible you can without maximizing the coverage or loss potential by buying a full blown, real estate
Right.
house that you're renting out.
Right.
So there's going to be downsides.
Curious. Let's pick a nice 3 bedroom or 4 bedroom, 2 bath, etc. Southwest Reno, Northwest. It doesn't matter. What would a room rent out for? A nice neighborhood, nice house. What?
Yeah,
I have no
so
idea.
I know because I have a lot of clients that are buying places for their students, their college students. Rooms right now are about $800 to $900 a month.
You're kidding me.
So, and now that includes them to be able to access like, the kitchen to cook
Kitchen. Yeah.
something or whatever.
Yeah.
But even some of the modified dormitory type places where you rent basically a bedroom and then there's a common area that's
Yes.
more cafeteria style, they're charging anywhere from $700 to $900 a month just for that room. And it's a private room. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
you. It's not like there's two people in there, but yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So if you had a 4 bedroom house renting it out at you're going to stay in one, rent out 3 bedrooms at $900, you're making
Yeah.
$2,700. Yeah,
I have
majority
a
of a
lot of
mortgage.
clients where their kids are young, they're getting married, got out of college, and they're turning that 5 bedroom house, 4 bedroom house over to the
Ah,
kids, and then they're renting out each room to the kids and their friends and et cetera as they're establishing their lives and basically creating dorm style living within
yeah.
neighborhoods in Northwest Reno and South Reno.
What have you come across? Any zoning? problems that you've seen in certain areas of town with that?
I mean, in
I mean, if
regard
you're
to
renting
that,
out
you're
3
not really,
rooms?
it's not a multifamily because you're renting
Yeah,
out
where does it fall?
rooms.
That's what I'm
So
saying. It's like
no,
it's not
you
an
could have an HOA issue where it's like, if you had a real strict HOA with or 55 plus community or something like that, you'd be
right.
in violation. Yeah.
Okay.
Check disclaimer, check your local rules, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, that's fat. $900. Amazing.
Yeah.
Something we talked to Corey about when this has been quite a while now, over the last year or so. City of Reno passing the
Mhm.
accessory dwelling units, the ADUs. Bring us up to date on that, because a lot of people have big backyards, and yeah, it costs you a little money to build something if you don't have it, but man, the cash flow could really work out nicely.
Yeah. So my understanding is basically you can convert anything that's attached to the property. It has to be less square footage than the house itself. I think it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be under 1,500 square feet. Has to include, I think, a kitchen and bathroom.
Okay,
And
makes
so
sense.
what you could potentially do, and I have clients that have done this, you could turn a 2-car garage, 3-car garage into a studio apartment that has
Mm-hmm.
a living room and laundry area, bathroom, bedroom, etc. So you could do something like that. You can add on to the property to do it. It's still, so even though you're allowed to do it as far as the county is concerned, you still remember that HOA regulations supersede whatever the county allows. So if you're
Right.
in a strict HOA, they may not allow it. It doesn't matter if the county
Sure.
allows it. So you do have to check on both sides of that.
So we want to make sure that we're checking our HOAs, city ordinances, and
Yep,
county. Okay.
correct.
All right.
I
Good.
always tell people a lot of the times, if you can do it, so when people go, well, do you know if I can park an RV here? I go, just drive through the neighborhood. You'll have your answer.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll
There
see
you go.
50 RVs parked in
Right.
the driveway, right?
Yes. If
So
you see
yeah,
nothing, don't even try it.
yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. Great advice there. All right, Aaron, when we come back, let's talk about short term versus midterm rentals.
Hmm.
Get into kind of this Airbnb versus, I love this idea. You put the 30 to 60-day rental, right? This is a great money maker. Aaron Clark, our very special guest, of course. Let's turn it over to Kristen Snow. She is always special to us. Tuesday. How we doing in the Right Now Traffic Center? Go back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KH. Mr. Clark, your phone number saw.
673-6700.
Beautiful. All right, we're talking about, again, you don't need multiple rentals to make cash flow in real estate. We're talking about utilizing something most of you have, your home. Now, I know we're pushing the envelope saying, oh, you can make $900 a month renting out a room or putting an ADU there or something. Obviously, not for everybody, especially if you still have kids at home, etc. But for those of you that are single and you're looking for ways to make some additional income, quite an opportunity, because rentals are of short supply. And even, right, Aaron, even just renting a room is of short supply. And believe it or not, that's what a lot of people want to do. They don't want to rent an entire house. They would rather, hey, look, give me a room and let me make a meal once in a while because I'm working so much, or I'm not going to be here home very much. So I just need a place to rest my head at night.
And I have quite a few clients. They travel a lot, so they have
Yep.
multiple houses in different areas. And
There
so
you go.
their downside strategy was they had a big house and they just want the room. So they'll rent out the rest of the house with the
You're
idea that when they're
kidding.
here
Oh my
for
gosh,
a
they
couple
reversed it.
weeks, they get to stay in that bedroom. Yeah. Or that
Isn't
daylight
that
basement or whatever it is. Yeah.
silly?
Mm-hmm.
What a
Yeah.
beautiful idea. I never thought
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
Reversing it. Wow. All right, well, let's wrap things up with our short-term versus midterm rentals, right? We've got Airbnbs and those type of things. Real quick before we get to the 30 to 60-day strategy or 30 to 90-day, bring us up to date. What's the scoop on Airbnbs right now? I'm hearing mixed things that it's got
I
so
mean,
saturated.
they were pretty saturated. There is a lot of people. I've had a lot of clients that bought them, had them for 5, 10 years, and they've
Yeah,
been pulling out of them a lot lately.
that's what I've heard
The fees
nationally.
are getting exponentially more and more and more. They're just harder to maintain. I mean, they're still there, they still exist, but it's not. There isn't as much return as there was, I would say.
Right.
Not as
Okay.
enough meat
All
on
right.
the bone.
Not enough meat on the bone.
Yeah. So because
All
of
right.
it,
Yep.
transitioning into the next thing, people are doing more the midterm rentals.
Okay,
And
explain that.
the beauty of the midterm rentals is you can do things like, I'm sure people have heard of Furnish Finder, for example. So it's where you would fill a house with furniture just like you normally would, like a Airbnb or whatever, and it
Hmm.
would be just like an Airbnb, but you're renting it out to corporate tenants. So you might have a business person that's in town for 3 months doing some workshops for a new launch of a business, especially with the Tahoe Regional Industrial Center. You have a lot of traveling medical field people, a lot of traveling nurses. A
Yes.
client right now, we're selling one of their properties. They have a condo and they have only done midterm rentals. And so
Hmm.
because of it, you're renting, your minimum time periods are sometimes 30 days and your max might be 6 months. Or it might be 2 month block, 1 month off, 2 month block, 1 month off, things like that. Because it's all based upon their usage and what they need.
I've got a husband and wife client, own a beautiful home, time to retire. They bought a motorhome, traveling, but they want to come back periodically. Found an executive through one of these services. 6 months to they've had one for 6 months, one for 9 months, one for a year, and yeah, just loving it, just
Yeah.
absolutely loving it. So,
Yeah. It's great.
all right, Mr. Clark. God bless everybody. We'll do it again tomorrow on the Jon Sanchez Show. Take care.
Jon Sanchez is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by Sanchez Gaunt Capital Management, LLC on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of News Talk 780 or its parent company, Cumulus Media. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.